Redding is a beautiful place. We have national parks in 3 different directions, 2 world-class lakes. This is a sportsman's paradise, but it's also full of wonderful people. We have business leaders, community leaders, faith-based leaders, all of them working towards a singular goal, and that's to make this a great place to live. I wanted to showcase these people, give their perception of the place that they call home. This is AllRedding.
Welcome everyone to the Back to Health podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Seaton. This is our first episode, and with me today is Seth Duivenvoorden from Duivenvoorden Farms.
How's it going?
A local dairy down in Cottonwood, correct?
Correct.
So how long, Seth, have you guys been a farm here in this area?
Since 1963.
So we're talking at least 56 years
56
now.
years, yeah. Next June will be 57, every June.
How many generations have been on that family farm?
Currently 4. My kids are the 4th generation. I am the 3rd generation. My dad and I are partners in the business, and he's had it since early 90s. And then, but my dad's parents started it. They both immigrated from Holland, and then started a new life for the Duivenvoorden family.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you guys, when I met your dad, you guys were in a point of transition where your dad was looking at producing raw milk.
Yes.
And that's when I met your guys' family. So what was it that created that transition? Was it the dairy industry? Was it a passion? What was it? Both? What happened at that time?
Both. So that was 2007 when we started that. And in 2007, well, I've known you a long time, Aaron.
Long time?
Yeah, a long time now.
We're going back ancient history.
Yeah. So that was in 2007 and 8 that the dairy industry really took a horrible turn. We were only milking about 80 cows at that time, which is still really small. But it was enough to get by until the market prices dropped substantially. We ended up at that in 2008. There was about a 2-month period where our checks that came from the creamery were actually 0 or negative because they take out, certain bills and stuff. So when you send the milk to them, they're taking it out, your mortgage and all that other kind of stuff. So we were working for an entire month for $0 to bring home.
Kind of hard to get ahead with that.
Kind of hard to do anything in that scenario. And then one day we had a family friend of ours. They called us up and they said, "Hey, we want to buy your milk straight from the farm." And I'm like, "Can you do that?" I don't know. Is that possible?
Right.
We drank the milk my whole, growing up. That's what you do.
Right.
Every dairyman does it. You just pull it out of the tank and drink it. I never saw a problem with it, but as I started to do a little more research with this and, get my dad a little more comfortable with the legal issues that could come up because of doing raw milk, we decided it just made perfect sense. My dad is very quality oriented. And so with him, everything he does is to the benefit of the cow and the benefit of the product. And it's to a point that it's very hard to trust anybody else to do what he does out there in the barn every single day.
And you brought up a good point about quality. And that's something you hear from a lot of people who may be concerned is raw milk safe? Are you guys a certified dairy? At what grade level are you, and how often are you inspected?
Yes. Okay. So when we first started this out, we started in 2008 with the herd share program. Now, a herd share program is kind of it's a contract between 2 people. Mm-hmm. And with that contract, the dairy basically maintains the herd. You are allowed to drink raw milk from your own personal cow. So if you buy a share in the cow, you own a portion of that cow. You are able to get the milk from that cow.
Right.
And so that we built up to a pretty large following. At one point, we were over 275 local families that came out to our farm weekly to pick up milk.
Right.
And as that grew, the state also decided that all right, you guys are big enough. Let's make this legitimate.
Right.
And we agreed, let's do this. So we went to we built our raw milk plant, and we finished the plant in 2017 and received our grade A license.
So you're a grade A dairy.
Yes.
Everything's certified, everything's inspected.
Everything.
And your guys' milk is among probably the most tested in the state, I would imagine. I mean, how often guys are...
Yes. It's tested. Everything's tested. So we take that very seriously. All three of my children, after they finished nursing, they went straight to raw milk.
So you have vested interest,
yes,
as well, to make sure that this milk is safe. And
exactly.
And another thing about, obviously pathogens can be one concern, but I think it's also important for people to understand that if you're consuming a product from an animal, what that animal eats itself affects your health.
100%.
What is the difference at Duivenvoorden Farms? Because we know that your cows eat fresh grass all of the time, and even in the winter, there's what we call a fodder system in place.
Correct.
To grow freshly sprouted grass for them throughout the winter. Is that typical of a dairy?
No.
Can you explain why that's important?
We are a 100% grass-fed dairy, and to follow that up, that means being creative. With when the pasture's in rotation, we use where the pasture's growing during the spring through the summer, because it's irrigated. We rotationally graze those cows. So
they're moving every so often to allow certain pasture to rest and grow back.
Exactly.
While they're on the next set.
Minimum of a 14-day rest.
Definitely very popular in not only beef herds, but dairy herds as well now, to maximize production, but also the health of the cow.
Exactly.
So you guys utilize that at your farm. How long have you been using that?
We've been doing that since 2012.
That's awesome.
So 2012, we built the fencing to implement that system. It started off in New Zealand, and then a lot of organic farmers adopted it over here, because, especially organic dairymen, because you maximize production.
Right.
And when you have a cow rotating through the field, one, the cow's getting exactly what the cow wants and what the cow needs. And then they're also depositing that carbon right back into the soil through manure, and then they're putting it in the soil with their hooves. And so then you're creating a sustainable environment, and your fields are going to be re-energized. It's a cyclical event that ends up being carbon negative, or I can't think of the
carbon neutral.
Carbon neutral.
Right.
Yes.
So you're able to rotate. How often are they on a pasture? You rotate them through. They're healthier, obviously, because they're eating fresh grown green grass. They're not staying too long on a certain plot of land, so that land isn't being, quote unquote, overworked.
Correct.
It's allowed to come back. So the land's healthier, the cows are healthier, and then anything you consume from that cow is healthier, whether it's you're eating the beef, you're drinking the milk. So everybody in this situation wins, from the land to the animals to the consumer.
Right. And you know exactly what your cows are eating.
Exactly.
If you're buying in grain or something else from somewhere else, you don't know how long it took to get to your farm.
Right.
Or where it came from, or what was used on it.
Right.
Those things are you can find out those verifications, but it's a lot harder to get that. So for us, being a small 40 cow closed herd, it makes a lot of sense for us to operate in this with these different management practices, along with the grass-fed, 100% grass-fed cows. The other thing to make that work, like you mentioned with the fodder. So in the wintertime, when they go from a fresh green feed to a dried hay in the winter, then they still need that fresh green feed, because it'll keep the flavor of the milk consistent. Every little there are so many factors that affect the flavor of milk, especially raw milk, because you're not nuking it. It's
you're not just boiling it at crazy temperatures and
then killing off all the good with the bad.
Right.
Possible bad.
Right.
And it's important for that. It also gives them that that wet feed is really important for the cow's gut health, for the cow's
Right.
rumen health. So and also just being on a straight grass diet is important for a cow's gut health, because what did cows do before we domesticated? What were they? They were buffalo. What did they do? They grazed. They're grazing animals.
Right.
That is what they are meant to eat.
You're telling me they're not designed to consume a bunch of genetically modified corn and soy standing on concrete? That's not.
No.
Wow.
That's
shocking.
Shocking, right? Yeah. That is not what they were intended to eat. And
You're touching on something that I think is important for people to understand too, is there have been several E. coli outbreaks that people are aware of. And a lot of the times in some of these cases, they've been able to trace that E. coli outbreak back to CAFOs, concentrated animal factory farms, that are mass producing or basically trying to bulk up lots of cows fast. And they're feeding them a lot of genetically modified corn and soy and grain to bulk them up. Does E. coli live in the gut of a cow that is on a grass diet?
What I see as the most harm that is doing in that scenario is that cow is not able to self-regulate. They're not able to reach a state of homeostasis within their gut for them to be healthy and thriving. Why? Well, they're getting killed in a couple months. Why do we care? Right? That's the mentality.
Right.
You're fattening them up. You're getting that marbling. You're getting that extra energy in them. And then by the time they're done with that, well, they're going to die anyways.
Right.
Right? That's the theory behind that. And that's the hard part, is trying to change that theory to show, other farmers that, hey, you don't have to do it that way.
Right.
And I think your consumers would appreciate it if you didn't.
This is a really good point too, because we've done studies on grass-fed beef versus grain-fed. There have been studies on free-range chicken eggs that are allowed to graze and have access to fresh green pasture, bugs, things, because chickens are omnivores. They're not vegetarians. They eat bugs, they eat grass, they eat all this stuff. In those free-range eggs versus just store-bought, factory-produced eggs where they're in a cage all the time, there was 17-to-1 in the factory-produced, 17-to-1 omega-6s to omega-3s, which we know these omega-6 fatty acids are pro-inflammatory. They cause inflammation. They can cause damage in our body if we consume too many of them. The pasture-raised eggs were 1-to-1, the perfect ratio from what most of the experts will agree on omega-6s to omega-3s. The same is true in grass-fed beef versus grain-fed.
Yes.
So one of the things we see at Duivenvoorden Farms is an understanding that what you feed these animals affects the end product.
100%.
So the milk you're going to drink is going to have more of these good things in it. If you're getting grass-fed beef from you guys, which you also offer from time to time, that quality of beef is going to be far better than something you can get at the store.
It is. Yeah, it is. I mean, it takes longer to produce it, but it's a better product. It will be more expensive. It will be more. Why? Because it does cost more to do it right. Right. It does. It's just, that's the basics of it. And if you are willing and serious about, what you put in your body and your overall health, and my suggestion to anybody is, even if it's not raw milk or grass-fed beef or just even farm fresh eggs, try them out. I guarantee you'll taste the difference.
Yes.
I guarantee you'll feel the difference. I guarantee you'll go, whoa, why is this so different? And it's going to pique that interest, and then you're going to dive down into this is what my body is craving now. This is what my body needs, is this type of food, raised this way or grown this way, or even milked this way.
Right.
That's another thing that we do with our milk. On top of the 100% grass-fed, we only milk once a day. So we leave those calves with their moms when the calves are born. They stay with their moms for a minimum of 2 months.
Is that common? 2 months at say a big factory type of dairy?
Absolutely not. No.
Okay.
Typical dairy practice is you pull that calf off day 1.
Wow.
The calf gets colostrum that is milked from the cow by a human. The calf does not suckle on the mom.
And that's not your policy.
Oh, not at all. I disagree with that 100%. I think it makes way more sense to have the calf be raised by its mother and have it get that start so that, I mean, there is no better start than that. And then
Right.
they're getting colostrum. And
They're
you're also
getting-
saving on labor. That's the other thing. Are you saving a little are you losing some milk production? Of course.
Right.
But you're raising a solid product with that calf.
Right. And that calf and that mom are probably quite a bit happier, I would imagine. No emotional
A lot
stress.
happier. Yes. You're that is the key to our dairy. The stress on the animal must be minimized at all costs. That is something that, we've really designed the dairy to eliminate as many stresses as we can on the animal, because I believe that produces a better product.
Right.
And judging by the people who have tasted our product and remained very loyal customers, I believe they see that too, that
Nice.
it just tastes better, and so with that, we leave the calves on the mom. We milk them once a day. We're 100% grass fed. And then the actual product, we leave all of the cream on the top of the milk. It's exactly that product that you see from us is exactly what the cow gives.
No processing, minimal processing. You're not skimming cream
Nothing.
off. You're not.
Nothing.
It is whole raw milk.
That milk goes into our bulk tank through a filter. It is chilled to 32 degrees in that bulk tank. After it goes into that bulk tank, it is pumped into your bottle.
So if you want some fresh cream
That's it.
on your in your coffee that morning, you can just skim it right off your
Skim it
milk.
right off the top.
There's plenty of it.
There's plenty of. There's
And that's
almost
a personal
pint.
testimony for me. I've been getting this milk for years.
Yeah.
And there is tons of cream on there.
There's
And I
about
will say, I mean, with my kids too,
Yeah.
you give them anything else, they're what is this? Is something wrong with the milk? Like, they know that it's not from your farm now.
Kids know.
And my kids are not old, like
Yeah.
7 and 5. And if I give them something else, they're well aware that that's not what they've had for
Yeah.
years.
Kids are actually my best customers.
Yeah, they know the difference.
Kids know. They taste it once and they're like, "Ma, I want that. That is what I want.
That's the good stuff."
Yeah, and we've had a lot of kids come up to us and go, "I want the good milk, Mom. I want the good milk." It's an expensive product. It is hard, and so some people will buy it as a supplement milk.
Right.
So they'll have the other milk, and then they'll have the raw milk as a supplement milk.
But anything done in this regard, I mean, we've touched on several different things where your farm has addressed a lot of key concerns for a consumer.
Correct.
What the diet of the animal is, the stress on the animals, all these different factors that affect. It would make sense to me, just as a consumer, that product's going to cost me a little more money.
Yeah.
And I'm supporting a local family farm rather than a giant outfit, in some cases with little regard for the end product for that consumer.
Right.
So it makes sense to be a little bit more. And you touched on something. I wanted to segue into that. Your consumers' happiness. You've talked about the kids really enjoying the product. What are some of the testimonials you've heard from consumers? I mean, I've heard from you guys a few different life-changing ones. Are there any that come to mind, without names obviously, but any that come to mind, any testimonials that you've heard about improved health, well-being, anything on that front?
I can speak honestly about my wife. She's one of my favorite people to talk about when it comes to how their life changed because of drinking raw milk. When we met back in 2013, she had not had a sip of milk in 15 years, and she was drinking the rice water. I refuse to call it milk.
Refuse to call it. That's just an insult to any dairy man.
Yeah, it is just not milk. It is.
That's colored water, people.
That's colored water.
With
That's
rice
all it
floating
is.
in it.
It's right. Yeah, it is not milk.
Now that we've established that,
yeah, now that we're
baseline,
very clear about that, milk comes
It doesn't
from
come
a
into-
mammal. That is it. That's the only.
rice is not a mammal.
Yep.
It's a plant.
Neither is an
And that's,
almond
and that's science.
or a walnut or whatever else they're bringing milk out of now. or soybean.
Get rid of my smoothie.
Yeah.
Get rid of it. It has some almond milk in it.
Oh, geez.
I'm just teasing.
So she was, I remember seeing that in her fridge and I went, what is this? Are you kidding me right now? This is not okay. Have you tried raw milk? She goes, no, not really. I said, okay, let's just try it out. And she wasn't able to eat ice cream.
She had dairy issues. Issues with dairy.
Across the board, dairy issues.
Any dairy product she get at the store, trouble with digestion, stuff like that.
Yes.
Okay.
A lot of people refer to it as lactose intolerance.
Right.
I don't believe that to be true. I believe it to be the enzymes that they're not getting is to be, it can't break down the lactose properly.
Right. And you and I both know in raw milk, lactase enzyme. The enzyme lactase is abundant.
Yeah.
Not only that, there are other enzymes to help break down the proteins and fats.
Correct.
And part of pasteurization is the denaturing of these enzymes.
Correct.
These enzymes become null and void. They're useless. You have to now produce the enzymes to break down this sterile product.
Which is why people take lactate pills or they have these
lactose. There's nothing there to help you digest it. And unlike a cow, we only have one stomach. We don't have several to help us break stuff down.
Our body cannot produce the lactase enzyme. It's not possible. We are not wired to produce that. That's why we need it in the milk to combat the lactose in the milk.
Right. Help us convert it to something useful.
We convert it to something useful. And then so you have the lactase enzyme, takes care of the lactose, no more lactose problems. Right. It's as simple as that.
So tell me about your wife.
So she started drinking it. We said, all right, let's try a cup a day. See if you have any issues. From day one, she didn't have an issue. I was kind of like, oh, wow. All right. This is really neat to be able to experiment with somebody up close and personal. Go, all right, let's do this. Let's regiment your diet. You know, you have not eaten anything dairy related in 15 years. How do we change this and see how this works? Within 2 weeks, she just, all of a sudden, her body was craving the raw milk. Mm-hmm. And she kept going. She then all of a sudden it was it. She was cereal, everything. It was all raw milk for the first 2 weeks to a month. And then she tried out cheese one day. It's a random cheese, and she's like, I wonder if I can eat this now. And she could, because that lactase enzyme.
Right. This was a pasteurized product.
This is a pasteurized product.
Versus your raw milk.
And she wanted ice cream. Pasteurized product.
Right.
All of these other dairy products are all pasteurized. But because she has that lactase enzyme inside her gut from drinking the raw milk, she is able to process these other products.
Right.
And her story had that very same story has been, I've heard from, I don't know, countless people. Countless people have come up to me and said very similar stories and gone, look at this, Seth. You know, I couldn't believe it.
Right.
I can actually drink this. I can actually drink milk again. You know, and I'm like, that's great. I'm really happy for you.
Right.
You know, and it's a fun thing. You know, I mean, if you've ever had any sort of ailment where all of a sudden you have a dietary restriction, you don't realize how much you miss something until you can't have it.
Right.
And then when you get it back, whoo, man, people they're
thrilled.
They're thrilled.
You're a godsend to them.
Yes. Yeah. They're loving it. And another one that we've had a couple newborns come in with, they've had issues processing. Either the mom had an issue with being able to produce enough milk for them, mm-hmm. or then they couldn't do any formula. They had such an issue with any formula on the market.
Right.
And so what they ended up doing was there's a Weston A Price raw milk formula.
Right. Homemade raw milk formula. Mm-hmm.
Raw milk formula. And so we've had, I would say, you know, upwards of 30 to 40 different moms stop in over the years at different times with their newborns going, they can't keep anything down. Something's going on.
Right. And so they were able to make them
I
follow the
try
Weston
this.
Price recipe.
Yes.
There's a couple things you add, but the base is raw milk, which is present with all the enzymes to help you break this down. So if there's a child having trouble digesting something, this is something that is going to have all of those factors present. They're going to have a much better chance absorbing this, digesting this, and as you've stated, from cows that are eating 100% grass all the time. So you couldn't produce healthier milk. That's awesome.
The quality has in the fat is a huge component. That cream, that butter fat needs to be in it.
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of my parents at my practice over the years about they're still afraid of like fat and cholesterol. I mean, this has been going on for decades now, and I try to remind them how important fat and cholesterol is to a developing brain. I mean, 25% of all of your cholesterol in your entire body is in your brain. If you don't have it, you're going to have trouble keeping that organ cranking. So, especially with a developing child, where their production in the brain is at such a rapid pace, and all the way up until our brain is maturing till the age of 25. If you start only giving them processed white flour and sugar and all these other crap that's out there that's supposedly food, you're not going to have a healthy functioning adult. No. So I'm really glad that you guys produce the milk the way you do. So anytime my kids get it, I'm thrilled every time I see this cream line on the milk. Like some raw milk, it's like, here's the cream. And then on yours, it's like halfway down the bottle. I'm like, yes, because I know my kids are going to get fat and cholesterol, and I want them to have that in their diet. So anyway, that's a random tangent I'm on.
And are your kids fat? No.
My kids are as lean as it gets.
As lean as it gets.
And
Why?
I feed them lots of fat,
lots
of cholesterol. I'm happy to give them, certain carbohydrates, stuff like that, but their diet is solid. It's not perfect. No kid's diet is going to be perfect. But this idea that this low fat myth that still continues is just absurd, especially with a developing brain. It's absurd. So what's the future for Duivenvoorden Farms? Where are you guys going now? I mean, we're seeing you in stores. You're available at Orchard Nutrition here. You're available at holiday markets. You're down in Chico. You're up in Mount Shasta. I mean, you guys are the largest raw milk dairy in Northern California, would you say? Close to it?
Yeah. Well, we're the only.
You're number one.
We're number one.
Okay,
we're number one across the board.
People. You're talking to the champion here. So you guys are the largest and only raw milk dairy in Northern California.
In Northern California. There are a couple other raw milk dairies in California. Just so we're clear for people who, I don't think I touched on this, it is legal to sell retail sales of raw milk in California. As long as you are a grade A dairy, have a grade A milk plant, and are inspected by everyone in the state.
And you guys have been doing that for years.
For years.
With no problem.
With no problem. Yeah.
There you go.
And it's as simple as that. You do it the right way.
Yeah.
You can be an operation.
Everybody's happy.
Everybody's happy.
Everybody's happy. Yeah. One thing that's very important, I think, for people, and I think more and more consumers are wanting this, is this connection with where their food comes from. I feel so fortunate and blessed to have known the Duivenvoorden family now for over 10 years, and I consider them really close friends of mine. And so I know that they produce wonderful, second to none quality products. So if you're interested in having more of a connection with where your food comes from and your local farmers who have been doing it for 56 years, come on out, meet the Duivenvoordens here. If they want more information, best place to go would probably be rawmilkdairy.com.
Correct. Yep.
Perfect, man.
Our last name is pretty hard, so
makes it. Duivenvoorden's family rawmilkdairy.org was taken.
Exactly.
.edu.
Yes.
Okay. That was our, okay. Seth Duivenvoorden, I just want to thank you for being here with us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks so much for coming on to our first episode of Back to Health. I'm your host, Aaron Seaton.